Ladies and gentlemen, the rich don't whisper their secrets to the world. They hide them in silence so deep, it echoes only in their actions. You see, the noise of success is never where success is born. It is conceived in quiet rooms, behind closed doors, and in moments when everyone else is distracted by applause, entertainment, and comparison. And what the world mistakes for luck is often nothing more than intelligence sharpened in solitude. The truth most never realize is this: the rich don't get richer by chasing more. They get smarter by pausing more. They pull away from the noise. They study the patterns others overlook. They master the art of listening, not to people, but to results. In silence, they find the truth that noise hides. In silence, they grow the mind that builds the empire. You see, most people fear silence because silence confronts them with themselves. It reveals their confusion, their impatience, their lack of direction. So they fill it with chatter, with opinions, with activity that looks like progress but creates none. But the few, the very few, they step into silence like it's a forge. They know it burns at first. They know it's uncomfortable. But they also know that comfort never created a legacy. When you sit in silence, something extraordinary happens. The world's lies start to fade. You stop measuring yourself by who's ahead of you. You begin to see what's missing, not in your possessions, but in your perception. And when you start thinking differently, the world starts responding differently. Think about it. The wealthy do not spend their mornings scrolling through distractions. They spend them in discipline. They don't talk about what they plan to do, they prepare to do it. They understand that silence isn't the absence of sound, it's the presence of strategy. And strategy requires space. Space from people's opinions. Space from constant stimulation. Space from the world's expectations so they can create their own. The difference between those who rise and those who remain is not found in their talent, their education, or even their opportunities. It's found in what they do when nobody is clapping. It's found in their ability to retreat into quiet and come out sharper, wiser, and more dangerous to mediocrity than before. Every great mind in history had one common trait, not brilliance, but stillness. Stillness to think, to study, to listen, to plan. And that stillness became their superpower. Because in the silence they heard what the world was too loud to notice. The patterns of success repeating themselves over and over again, for those humble enough to observe. So, the next time you envy someone's wealth, don't ask how they made their money. Ask what they stopped listening to. Ask what noise they escaped. Ask how long they were willing to walk alone before the world began to notice them. Because the truth is, silence is not weakness. It's the gym of the mind. And those who train there in secret emerge with strength the noisy world can't compete with. But here's the question most never dare to ask themselves. Can you stay silent long enough to become powerful? Because the next secret isn't shouted. It's discovered in the quiet. Silence is not empty. It is full of answers. But only the disciplined mind can hear them. When most people face silence, they panic. They rush to fill it with something: music, gossip, television, anything to drown the whisper of their own thoughts. Because deep down, silence demands honesty. It forces you to confront your weaknesses, your excuses, your lack of direction. And that is why so few ever master it. Because mastering silence requires mastering yourself. The rich understand this truth at an instinctive level. They know that wealth doesn't begin with money, it begins with clarity. They retreat into silence not to escape the world, but to understand it. While others chase the illusion of progress, they study patterns, markets, habits, psychology, timing. They listen, not to people, but to principles. You see, the poor and the impatient seek shortcuts. They want the secret formula, the own trick that will change everything. But the rich, the wise, the visionary, they know the shortcut is silence. Because silence creates depth, and depth creates insight. Think of the farmer who plants seeds. When he buries them beneath the soil, they disappear. No sound, no movement, no proof of life. To the impatient, it looks like nothing is happening. But in that quiet darkness, transformation begins. That's how intelligence grows. That's how wealth matures. In the unseen, unheard, and uncelebrated space. And yet, the modern mind rebels against that process. It wants speed over substance. It wants applause before understanding. That's why so many chase visibility instead of value. They want to look successful, not become significant. But here's the irony: the richest individuals are invisible long before they are influential. They disappear from the crowd before they dominate it. In silence, they read what others scroll past. They observe what others ignore. They think while others react. They don't just work harder, they work smarter because their silence has sharpened their perception. Every successful person you admire once had a season of obscurity. A time when nobody noticed their grind, nobody believed in their ideas, nobody cared about their progress. And yet, instead of fighting for attention, they fought for understanding. They learned to think independently. They learned to question assumptions. They learned to build when no one was watching. That's the hidden art of success, learning to operate when unseen. Silence isn't where dreams die. It's where they're refined. It's where noise ends and direction begins. So, if you find yourself in a quiet season, a season where nobody's clapping, nobody's calling, and nobody seems to notice your effort, don't rush out of it. Stay there. Because silence is not punishing you, it's preparing you. The question isn't, when will I be seen? The real question is, what am I becoming while unseen? Because when the silence ends, and it will, you won't just return louder, you'll return smarter. And that's what makes all the difference. There comes a moment in every builder's life when silence stops being a prison and becomes a laboratory. It's the moment you stop asking, why isn't anyone noticing me? And start saying, good, now I can build without interruption. That shift changes everything. Because when you stop chasing validation, you start attracting revelation. You begin to think at a different frequency. A frequency the average mind can't hear because it's too crowded with noise. And at that frequency, the ideas that change your destiny begin to arrive. Let me tell you a truth most never realize: a silence sharpens creativity. It gives birth to strategy. It strengthens conviction. When there's no one around to influence your direction, you begin to hear your own wisdom. And that's when real intelligence awakens. Not the kind you find in books, but the kind you forge through self-mastery. The rich, the innovators, the visionaries, they use silence like a sculptor uses a chisel. Every day, they chip away at distraction until only precision remains. They don't waste words explaining what they're doing. They don't seek approval for their process. They let their results do the talking later. For now, their silence speaks louder than any announcement ever could. But make no mistake, silence is not easy. It is not peaceful at first. It tests your patience, exposes your fears, and forces you to confront the uncomfortable truth that you are responsible for your own growth. There's no applause to reassure you, no audience to motivate you, no comfort to cling to, just you. And the question, how bad do you really want this? That's where most people break. But those who endure, they evolve. Because in the stillness, they start to separate what matters from what doesn't. They realize that wealth is not built by doing more, but by doing less with greater focus. They understand that opportunities are not seized through noise, but through timing, and timing is born in observation. Think about it, every empire started in silence. Every invention began as a thought nobody heard. Every revolution started as a whisper before it became a roar. The ones who changed the world didn't wait for applause. They worked in silence until the world had no choice but to listen. And when they finally emerged, the same people who ignored them began to study them. The same voices that doubted them began to echo their words. That's the irony of success. It rewards those who could handle being ignored. So if your world feels quiet right now, if you feel hidden, overlooked, or underestimated, don't resent it. Respect it. Because silence is the universe's invitation to evolve without distraction. What the noisy world doesn't see is that silence is shaping you for stages you haven't yet stood on, opportunities you haven't yet met, and victories you haven't yet imagined. And when that moment arrives, when your silence finally turns into sound, it won't be the noise of pride. It will be the sound of precision, power, and purpose, born from the quiet no one else could handle. Silence, my friends, is not the retreat of the weak. It is the training ground of the strong. Those who fear it, flee it. Those who master it, rise from it. Because silence doesn't just make you smarter, it makes you sovereign over yourself. When you learn to move in silence, you stop reacting and start creating. You stop being controlled by what others think and start being guided by what you know. That's the secret the rich carry like a hidden compass. They understand that true power is not displayed, it's directed. And you can only direct it when you're no longer desperate to prove it. You see, the average person wants to announce every move, every new idea, every small win, every next step. But the wise, they understand that visibility can kill vision when it arrives too soon. Because when you expose your dream before it's ready, you invite the world to dissect it before it's strong enough to survive. The wealthy guard their plans not out of arrogance, but out of awareness. They know the value of privacy in the process. In silence, they perfect the plan. In silence, they learn the timing. In silence, they test the strategy until it's bulletproof. And when the moment finally comes to act, their results hit like thunder. Not because they shouted, but because they prepared. Preparation is the invisible work that builds visible success. It's the silent discipline of reading when others sleep, learning when others scroll, investing when others spend. It's the unseen hours that give birth to the seen life. The rich don't just have more money. They think differently about time, energy, and attention. They treat their focus like currency. They understand that what you give your silence to will eventually give you its reward. That's why they protect it fiercely. When the world says, post more, they say, plan more. When others gossip, they study. When others crave recognition, they crave refinement. And that's why the gap between them and everyone else widens year after year. Not because they are luckier, but because they are quieter. Their silence isn't passive, it's productive. They're observing what others miss, preparing for what others aren't ready for, positioning themselves while others are performing for attention. And that's the secret rhythm of true wealth: patience disguised as silence, strategy disguised as stillness. So if you're in that quiet season right now, feeling invisible, don't rush to make noise. Let the silence do its work. Let it sharpen your instincts, cleanse your distractions, and build your foundation brick by brick. Because when the day comes, and it will, when you finally speak, your words will carry the weight of wisdom, not noise. And when you move, your actions will strike with precision, not desperation. Remember, thunder is loud, but lightning is silent. And it's lightning that changes everything. There comes a time when silence completes its work, when the student who once listened finally begins to speak, not out of ego, but out of understanding, because silence was never meant to keep you hidden forever. It was meant to prepare you to be heard differently. When you emerge from silence, you don't come back louder, you come back clearer. You speak less, but every word carries power. You move slower, but every step carries purpose. You no longer chase opportunity, you attract it, because your quiet time has given birth to uncommon awareness. That's the difference between noise and mastery. Noise demands attention. Mastery commands it. You see, the rich don't get richer by working harder in public. They get smarter in silence, learning what to say no, to what to wait for, and what to walk away from. They understand that wealth is a game of decisions, not distractions. Every wrong move comes from impulse. Every right move comes from insight. And insight is born in stillness. So the next time you see someone living freely, think carefully. You're not looking at luck. You're looking at someone who stayed quiet when everyone else shouted, who learned when everyone else argued, who built while everyone else bragged. You're looking at someone who mastered the discipline of silence until wisdom became their greatest asset. Silence refines your judgment. It helps you sense when to act, when to wait, and when to walk away entirely. It turns emotional decisions into strategic ones. It transforms panic into patience. It teaches you that you don't need to prove, you need to improve. That's why the world's true winners are calm under pressure. They've been here before, in the silence. They've already fought the battles inside their own mind before the world ever saw the results. And because of that, they move differently. They think like builders, not beggars. They plan like visionaries, not victims. So if you find yourself walking alone on the quiet road, understand this: you're in the same place every great mind once walked. Don't fear it. Don't rush it. Don't fill it. Use it. Use it to grow sharper. Use it to see clearer. Use it to build stronger. Because the world doesn't reward noise, it rewards mastery. And mastery is the fruit of a mind that's been trained to listen, to think, and to act quietly. So here's my challenge to you, the kind that separates the talkers from the transformers. The next time you feel the urge to explain your vision, don't. The next time you're tempted to prove your worth, pause. The next time the world demands your noise, give it your silence. And when you return, return not with chatter, but with change. Not with noise, but with results. Because the rich don't get richer, they get smarter in silence.